Hey there. Tonight we're traveling back, way back, to a time before empires could track every movement, before roads connected every village, before anyone believed warfare had rules. Welcome to my channel. If you're new here, hit that subscribe button and let me know in the comments where you're watching from and what time it is for you right now. Are you in bed? On a late night drive? Winding down after a long day? So, dim the lights, get comfortable, and let me take you somewhere they never taught you in school. You are cold. The mountain wind cuts through the wool cloak wrapped around your shoulders as you crouch behind a limestone outcrop, fingers numb, gripping a spear shaft worn smooth by your father's hands before yours. It's 279 BCE in the Hemus Mountains, what we now call the Balkans, and you're not a soldier in any army. You're a shepherd. You were a shepherd. 3 days ago, a Roman scouting party burned your village, looking for grain they claimed as tribute. Your sister hid in the root cellar. Your mother didn't make it to the cellar in time. Now you're something else entirely. Now you're learning what your ancestors knew, that these mountains don't belong to empires. They belong to those who know how to disappear into them. Tonight, you'll discover why the greatest armies in history learned to fear these hills, and why warfare here never looked like the battles painted in scrolls. This is the story they don't tell. You wake before dawn in a shallow cave, your breath visible in the frigid air. The entrance is concealed behind wild blackberry brambles that scratch your face every time you enter or leave. But that's the point. Invisibility means survival. Your army consists of 7 others: farmers, a blacksmith's apprentice, 2 brothers who herded goats, and a woman named Darsa who can track a mouse across bare rock. No generals, no formations, just people who refuse to be erased. The Thracian tribes scattered across these mountains have been doing this for centuries, appearing from nowhere to bleed larger forces dry, then vanishing like morning mist. But you're Illyrian, from a village that sat on the border between worlds, and you learn the same lessons from the same unforgiving landscape. Mountains teach patience, valleys teach speed, rivers teach cunning. You chew on dried venison so hard it hurts your jaw, washing it down with snowmelt collected in a leather flask. Food isn't plentiful. In 3 days, you've eaten once. Your stomach protests, but your mind stays sharp. Empty bellies make quiet feet. One of the brothers, Danko, is sharpening a hunting knife against a whetstone, the sound unnaturally loud in the pre-dawn stillness. Darsa checks her bow, counting arrows. 7 left. You have 10. 17 arrows between 9 people against an empire. The blacksmith's apprentice, Voran, sketches in the dirt with a stick, mapping the narrow pass 2 valleys east where supply wagons struggle up the switchbacks. Romans are predictable. They build roads, they follow roads, they die on roads. You've been watching them for 2 days, from ridgelines they never thought to guard. Why would they? They're Romans. They conquered Gaul, crushed Carthage, tamed the Mediterranean. What could mountain villagers possibly do? You move through the forest like water through cracks in stone, following the path of least resistance, making no sound. The others spread out in a loose line, maintaining visual contact through hand signals your grandfather taught you for hunting. Romans march in columns. They talk, laugh, complain about sore feet and officers. You hear them before you see them, the rhythmic clank of metal, the rumble of wagon wheels over rocks, someone singing badly. The supply train winds through the narrow pass right on schedule. 6 wagons pulled by oxen, 20 soldiers as escort, 10 ahead, 10 behind. They're bored. This route has been safe for months. The local tribes either fled deeper into the mountains or accepted Roman protection. Nobody's stupid enough to attack a military convoy. You are apparently stupid enough. Darsa moves first, because Darsa always moves first. An arrow takes the lead soldier in the throat. Silent, efficient, perfect. He crumples without a sound, and for 3 heartbeats, nobody notices because they're not expecting to notice. By the time the soldier beside him shouts alarm, 4 more arrows have flown. Chaos erupts below you. This is when Romans do what Romans do. They form up, shields locking, training overcoming surprise. It's beautiful, really. Disciplined, professional. Completely useless on a 40-degree slope covered in loose shale. You roll the rocks you spent 2 hours positioning yesterday. The avalanche isn't massive, but it doesn't need to be. Footing disappears. The neat formation breaks. Men stumble. Shields drop. And that's when Voran and the brothers attack from the opposite side. You don't join the melee yet. You're the watcher. The backup plan. The one who makes sure nobody runs for help. A soldier breaks free, sprinting downhill. You intercept him at the tree line. Your spear finds his back. He falls forward, momentum carrying him another 3 steps before he collapses. It's over in minutes. The aftermath is messy. War always is, but nobody writes poems about the messy parts. You strip the dead of anything useful. Armor doesn't fit your frame, too broad in the shoulders for Roman sizing. But the short sword is quality iron. Gladius, they call it. You take 3. 1 for you, 2 to trade. The brothers argue over a helmet until Darsa settles it by taking the helmet herself. Fair enough. She killed 5 of them. The wagons contain grain, wine, oil, and, unexpectedly, pay chests for a garrison somewhere north. Roman coins, silver denarii stamped with an eagle. Enough to feed your group for months if you could spend it without getting crucified. You can't. But the grain you can use. The wine too, though Voran warns against drinking it. Dull men make dead men, he says, which is something his blacksmith master used to say. You bury nothing. The bodies stay where they fell. Let the wolves have them. Let Rome find them and understand the message. These mountains are not yours. Your hands shake as you load sacks of grain onto your back. Not from fear, from something else. You killed a man today. Looked him in the eyes as your spear punched through wool and flesh and out his back. He couldn't have been older than you, maybe younger. Maybe he had a sister too. This is the part they don't teach you. How killing someone doesn't feel like victory. How you can be right and sick about it at the same time. The group moves quickly, scattering in different directions before regrouping 3 valleys over. Old Thracian trick. Even if they track 1 person, they won't find 9. You take the high route, scrambling over scree that slides treacherously underfoot, grain sack heavy, breathing hard in thin air. Behind you, smoke rises from the wagons. No supplies for the garrison. No soldiers returning to tell what happened. Just questions Rome won't like the answers to. 3 days pass in a cave network the elders call Stone Mother, a series of interconnected caverns worn smooth by an underground river that dried up generations ago. Water still seeps through cracks, pooling in natural basins. You can hear it dripping constantly, a rhythm that matches your heartbeat when you're trying to sleep. Sleep doesn't come easy anymore. You see the soldier's face, the surprise in his eyes, the way he reached back trying to pull the spear out as if that would help. Darsa noticed you're not eating. She sits beside you in the darkness, close enough that her shoulder touches yours. First one? She asks quietly. You nod, not trusting your voice. Good, she says, which isn't what you expected. Means you're still human. The day it doesn't bother you is the day you've become what we're fighting against. She lost her husband to Roman tax collectors 2 years ago. He couldn't pay, so they took him for the mines. He didn't last 3 months. She doesn't talk about it, but everyone knows. Her children are with her sister's family, somewhere safer, somewhere deeper in the mountains. She fights so they don't have to. You all have reasons. Voron's blacksmith master was executed for making weapons without permission. Apparently, only Romans can authorize who forges iron. Danko and his brother lost their entire flock to a centurion who declared the best animals requisitioned for military use and gave them a receipt worth less than the paper it was written on. Every person in this cave has a story about Rome taking something that couldn't be replaced. Outside, through a crack barely wide enough to see through, you watch a patrol pass below. They're searching. 20 men, maybe more, combing the valleys in a grid pattern. Professional. Thorough. They'll never find this entrance. It's hidden behind a waterfall that only flows during spring melt. But they're learning. Rome adapts. Rome always adapts. Intelligence comes from unexpected places. A shepherd boy, maybe 10 years old, appears at the cave mouth during the night. He knows the whistle, 3 short, 1 long, 2 short, that marks him as friendly. Darsa almost puts an arrow in him before Voron recognizes his older brother. The boy brings news. Romans are building a fortified outpost 2 valleys south, cutting trees, importing workers. They're planning to stay. The information costs you half your grain supply, which the boy carries in a sack too large for his frame. His family is starving. Everyone's family is starving. Rome takes the harvest and wonders why people rebel. You spend the next day watching the construction site from a ridge shrouded in clouds. 60 men, maybe more, cutting timber and hauling stones. They're building a watchtower, 3 stories tall when finished, with sightlines across multiple passes. It'll make movement nearly impossible. You can already see the beginnings of a palisade wall. Sharpened stakes driven into earth at angles designed to break cavalry charges nobody in these mountains even has. Romans over-engineer everything. It's their superpower and their weakness. Voron has an idea. He always has ideas, most of them bad, but this one might work. They're clearing trees, right? Making open space? You nod. Making a kill zone. He also making kindling. Dry summer, wind from the south, 1 good fire. It's risky. More than risky. It's borderline suicidal. Setting a forest fire means controlling a forest fire, and forests don't like being controlled. But the alternative is letting Rome dig in, fortify, expand. Today it's 1 outpost. Tomorrow it's 10. Next year it's a city, and your grandchildren will be speaking Latin. You agree to the plan. So does everyone else. Because what choice do any of you have? Freedom or safety? You can't have both. Not anymore. Maybe you never could. You move into position 2 hours before sunset, when the wind is strongest and the workers are tired. The plan requires precision timing. Too early and they'll organize bucket brigades. Too late and the fire won't catch properly. Voron prepared the incendiaries. Clay pots filled with oil, pine resin, and strips of wool. Ancient Thracian recipe, he claims. You suspect he's making that up, but the mixture burns hot and fast when you test it, so you don't argue. Darsa and 3 others create a distraction on the north side. Nothing dramatic, just some shouting and movement in the trees, enough to draw the guard patrol. Romans can't resist investigating noise. It's how they're trained. Identify threat, neutralize threat. Simple, effective, predictable. You and Voron approach from downwind, crawling on your bellies through underbrush, still damp from morning dew. Your heart hammers so hard you're certain they'll hear it. 50 paces, 40, 30. A sentry walks past, close enough to kick, but his eyes are on the northern tree line where Darsa's group is making noise. You hold your breath until your lungs scream. The timber pile is enormous. Hundreds of logs stacked for construction, bone dry inside despite the damp exterior. Voran places the pots carefully at the base, where the wind will carry flames upward. You're trembling, but not from cold. This is different from ambushing a convoy. This is striking at Rome itself, at their infrastructure, their symbol of permanence. This is declaring that nowhere is safe. Flint strikes steel. Once, twice. A spark catches the oil-soaked wool. Yellow flame blooms, tentative at first, then hungry. You don't wait to watch it spread. You're already scrambling backward, pulse roaring in your ears, branches scratching your face. Behind you, someone shouts alarm in Latin. The fire finds the resin. The night lights up like a second sun. The fire spreads faster than anyone anticipated. Wind feeds it. Dry summer feeds it. Stacked timber feeds it like a sacrifice to hungry gods. You watch from the safety of high ground as the entire construction site becomes an inferno. The watchtower, weeks of labor, collapses in a shower of sparks visible for miles. Romans run in organized chaos. They're trying to save what they can, but there's nothing to save. Flames jump from the timber pile to the palisade to the supply tents. Everything burns. You should feel victorious. Instead, you feel something closer to awe mixed with horror. Fire doesn't discriminate. It doesn't care about justice or empires or dead sisters. It just consumes. A worker, not a soldier, just a worker, screams as his clothing catches. Others pull him down, roll him in dirt, but you can hear his agony from a quarter-mile away. That man wasn't your enemy. He was probably conscripted labor, some farmer from Anatolia or Gaul forced into service, just trying to survive. War makes everyone a target. Varan claps you on the shoulder. They'll think twice before building here again. Maybe. Or maybe they'll come back with 3 times the troops and burn every village in retaliation. Rome doesn't forget insults. Rome doesn't forgive. Rome just gets more Roman about problems until the problems disappear. The group retreats as planned, splitting up, taking different routes. You climb higher into the mountains, following a goat trail so narrow you have to sidle along it, pack scraping against rock wall, 100-foot drop on the other side. Below, the fire rages into the night, painting the clouds orange. Somewhere in the valleys, dogs are barking. Somewhere, families are hiding, terrified of what comes next. You reach a hollow beneath an overhang, too exhausted to go farther. You sleep fitfully, dreaming of flames and screaming. Morning brings rain, cold, steady, the kind that seeps into everything. You're grateful for it. Rain washes away tracks, scatters scent trails, makes pursuit difficult. Rain is an ally, even when it soaks you to the bone and makes your teeth chatter. You chew on hard cheese while water drips off your nose, watching the valley below through sheets of grey. The fire is out. What remains is a black scar across the landscape, still smoking despite the downpour. A hawk circles overhead, unconcerned with human warfare. You envy it, the freedom of indifference. 2 days later, you reunite with the others in a shepherd's abandoned hut. Walls half collapsed, but roof mostly intact. Darsa arrived first, then Varan and the brothers. 3 others trickle in over the next day. 1 doesn't come back. Mira, a farmer's daughter who joined after Romans killed her father for hiding grain. You wait an extra day, hoping, but she doesn't appear. You don't talk about it, can't afford to. Maybe she decided this life wasn't for her. Maybe she's lying dead in a ravine with a broken neck. Maybe Romans captured her and she's being tortured for information she doesn't have. Maybe. War runs on maybes. The shepherd boy returns with more news. Romans are furious, obviously. They're offering rewards for information about the saboteurs. 20 denarii for names, 30 for locations. Enough silver to keep a family fed all winter. You're worth 30 pieces of silver, apparently. You'd laugh if it wasn't terrifying. Betrayal is always affordable when starvation is the alternative. We need to leave this area entirely, Varane says, stating the obvious. Move north, connect with the Tribali clans. The brothers disagree. North is unknown territory, possibly hostile. Darsa suggests east, toward the coast, where Greek cities might offer sanctuary. Everyone talks. Nobody agrees. Democracy is messy when your life depends on the decision. The decision makes itself when a patrol appears in the valley below. You're watching from the ridge, and you count 40 soldiers. Not searching, marching, heading directly toward the cluster of villages where most of you have family. Message patrols, Varane calls them. When Rome can't find the enemy, they make examples of everyone else. Your sister is in one of those villages. You don't discuss it, you just start moving, and the others follow because they understand. Everyone has someone down there, mothers, brothers, children, people who can't run and hide in caves, people who have to stay and hope mercy exists. It doesn't. You know it doesn't. Rome doesn't do mercy in the mountains. Rome does efficiency. The patrol is moving fast, but you know these slopes better. You know the shortcuts, the game trails, the places where rock gives way under weight. You push yourself, lungs burning, legs screaming, because you might already be too late. The distance between you and the valley floor is measured in elevation drop and desperation. You reach the village an hour before the patrol does. It's chaos, people grabbing children, loading carts, arguing about what to take and what to leave. An old woman refuses to abandon her house. She's lived there 70 years, she says. She'll die there if she must. Probably she will. Your sister sees you and bursts into tears. You haven't seen her in 2 months. She looks thinner. Everyone looks thinner. You have maybe 40 minutes to get her and everyone else who'll listen into the hills before Romans arrive. Some will stay. Some always stay. Too old, too sick, too stubborn, too hopeful that if they cooperate, they'll be spared. History doesn't support that hope. Run, you tell her. Don't pack anything, just run. She nods, grabbing her daughter, your niece, barely 3 years old, who doesn't understand why everyone's crying. You lead 30-some people up the mountain, mostly women, children, and elders. The young men already left months ago, either to fight or to find work in cities that might not kill them. What's left is everyone Rome considers irrelevant, which makes them perfect targets for object lessons about rebellion. The trail is steep and treacherous with loose scree. An old man falls, catches himself, keeps climbing. Your niece rides on your shoulders, her small hands gripping your hair. She's crying, frightened by the urgency she doesn't comprehend. You make up a song as you climb, something about a brave little bird flying to its nest. It's terrible. She stops crying. Behind you, smoke rises from the village. They're burning it. Of course they're burning it. Collective punishment for individual resistance is Rome's favourite lesson plan. You wonder if the old woman got out. You'll never know. Dassa is leading the group now because she knows these paths better. You drop back, watching the rear, making sure no one falls behind. A mother is carrying twins, maybe a year old. She's struggling. Varane takes one of the babies without asking, tucking the child against his chest. The blacksmith's apprentice, who probably never held a baby in his life, suddenly a carrier of the future. The cave system you're heading for is larger than Stone Mother, a whole network that extends miles underground with multiple entrances and fresh water. Ancient people lived there once. You can still see their paintings on the walls, images of hunts and handprints and symbols nobody understands anymore. The Romans don't know about it. Too busy building roads and forts to look at what already exists. You reach the entrance as darkness falls. People collapse inside, exhausted, traumatized, homeless. Your sister finds a corner and just stares at nothing, holding her daughter. You want to comfort her. You don't know how. What comfort is there when everything burns? Life in the caves becomes the new normal. Normal is a generous word. 63 people crammed into cold stone chambers, sleeping on piled leaves and stolen blankets, eating whatever can be foraged or hunted. You become a hunter by necessity. The gladius is useless for hunting deer, too short, too heavy, but the spear works. You spend days tracking a boar through the high country, finally killing it with a throw your grandfather would have been proud of. 63 people share one boar. Nobody complains about portion sizes. The Romans establish a permanent garrison in the burned valley. You watch them from hiding. They're building in stone this time, not wood. Learning, adapting. A century of soldiers, engineers, surveyors. They're mapping the region, plotting every trail and water source. Eventually, they'll find the caves. It's just mathematics and patience, and Rome has infinite patience. Darsa proposes something radical. We stop running, we make this our territory. Force them to fight on our terms, not theirs. It's the Thracian way. The mountains themselves become the weapon. Every patrol that enters becomes a target. Every supply line becomes vulnerable. Rome can garrison one valley, but not 20. They can build one fortress, but not 100. Spread them thin, bleed them slowly. Make occupation cost more than it's worth. It's a long-term strategy, and you're not sure any of you will survive long-term. But the alternative is fleeing forever, until there's nowhere left to flee to. The group votes. Democracy in a cave, deciding how to fight an empire. It's absurd. It's also the most human thing you've experienced in months. Everyone gets a voice. Fighters, farmers, the old woman who smuggled herself out of the village in a grain cart, even the children above 10 years. Majority rules. The majority wants to fight. So you fight. Not like Romans with their formations and discipline, like wolves, like shadows, like the mountains themselves. Winter arrives early in the mountains, and with it, a different kind of warfare. Romans hate winter. Their armor conducts cold directly to skin. Their sandals, even with wool wrappings, are designed for Mediterranean climates. They huddle in their stone garrison, venturing out only when necessary, burning through firewood faster than they can cut it. You love winter. Winter is when you hunt Romans. The first patrol you ambush is carrying supplies from a fortified granary. 6 soldiers, overconfident, complaining loudly about the cold. They never hear you coming. Snowfall muffles sound. White ground makes blood startlingly red. You take their cloaks, warmer than yours, and their boots. Good leather, properly made. Your feet have been numb for weeks. The second ambush is messier. They're expecting trouble now, moving in tighter formations, watching the ridgelines. You adapt. Voron builds a deadfall trap, a massive log suspended above a narrow pass, triggered by a tripwire. 2 Romans die instantly when it falls. The others scatter, and you pick them off one by one through the trees. It's not honorable. It's not glorious. It's survival with extra steps. Your sister asks you to teach her to fight. You refuse initially. She has a daughter to raise. But she's insistent. If they come, I won't die helpless. Fair point. You teach her the basics. How to hold a blade, where to strike, how to move quietly. She's clumsy at first, but determined. Determination counts for more than natural talent in guerrilla warfare. The Roman commander, you learn his name is Gaius Marcellus, posts a reward for your group. 50 denarii each. You're worth more now, apparently. Inflation, maybe. Or maybe you're becoming a real problem. The reward posters go up in 3 languages: Latin, Greek, and local Illyrian. Someone in the garrison is smart enough to realize most locals can't read Latin. You burn the posters whenever you find them. Small victories, but they add up. Spring thaw changes everything. The passes open. The Romans can move freely again, which means you have to be twice as careful. But it also means supply lines extend, patrols range farther, opportunities multiply. Gaius Marcellus is aggressive, pushing into territories he avoided all winter. He's building roads now, crude things but functional, connecting the garrison to regional supply routes. Roads mean targets. You sabotage them at night, digging trenches across the roadbed, covering them with branches and dirt, waiting for wagons to break axles. You roll boulders onto bridges, cracking the support beams. Small acts of destruction that cost Rome time and money. Death by 1,000 inconveniences. The population is growing bolder. Villagers that cooperated out of fear are now secretly supporting you, leaving food in marked locations, passing information about patrol schedules. An innkeeper's wife tells you when officers get drunk and brag about upcoming operations. A miller's son sketches maps of the garrison layout from memory. Resistance spreads like spring flowers, small and fragile, but everywhere. But there's a problem. Someone is talking. Too many ambushes are walking into counter-ambushes. Locations you thought were secret are compromised. Voran suspects a spy in the cave network. Darsa thinks it's worse. She thinks Romans are capturing isolated villages and torturing information out of them. Both are probably right. You catch the spy by accident. One of the refugees, a man named Torvus, is found with Roman coins hidden in his bedroll. Not payment for labor, silver denarii, the kind they're offering as rewards. He denies everything, claims he found them. But found coins don't come in neat pouches with official stamps. Darsa wants to kill him immediately. Voran wants a trial. Your sister just looks at him with disgust. You make him leave. Just leave. Take his coins and go. And if anyone sees him within 10 miles of any cave or village, they have permission to kill him. You learn to read the land like text. Every broken branch, every disturbed rock, every bird that stops singing tells a story. Romans move through terrain like they own it. They do, legally speaking. But ownership doesn't mean understanding. You understand. This land raised you, tested you, taught you where to step and where not to step. A Roman sentry gets lost in a fog bank. You find them wandering in circles, cursing, trying to navigate by a compass that's useless in this much iron ore. You don't attack. You herd them. Subtle noises from the east push them west. Rocks tumbling down from the north push them south. By evening, they're deep in a valley with no good exits, exhausted, afraid, arguing with each other. You still don't attack. You just watch them spend the night huddled around fires, jumping at every sound. At dawn, you guide them out, anonymous whistles leading them toward the main road. They emerge grateful and embarrassed, never knowing they were being played with. Darsa thinks you're going soft. Maybe you are, or maybe you're learning that sometimes the best victory is the one that makes enemies question everything. Those soldiers will tell stories about the haunted valley. Other soldiers will hesitate before entering that area. Fear is a weapon too, sharper than any gladius. Your niece is learning to speak in full sentences now. She calls you Uncle Mountain because you're always covered in mud and leaves. It makes you laugh, which you haven't done in months. Children are good at finding joy in unlikely places. She turns 3 during spring. You mark it by giving her a wooden bird you carved. It's terrible. She loves it absolutely. Your sister is pregnant again. Different father. Someone from another refugee group who joined the caves over winter. Life continues, even in caves. Especially in caves. Humans are stubbornly persistent about living. News arrives from the east. The Thracians have united under a king named Soothes. He's gathering an actual army, proper formations, thousands of warriors. He's challenging Rome directly, which is either brilliant or suicidal depending on how you look at it. Voron wants to join him. We could be part of something bigger, he argues. Not just raiders, but liberators. You're skeptical. Big armies mean big battles, and big battles favor Rome. You've seen what Roman legions do in open combat. They're a machine that processes opposition into corpses. But Voron isn't wrong about the appeal. Part of you is tired of hiding, of ambushing, of watching over your shoulder constantly. Darsa settles it. Anyone who wants to go, goes. Anyone who wants to stay, stays. We're not Rome. We don't force allegiance. It's the most reasonable thing anyone's said in months. Voron leaves with 3 others. You stay with Darsa, your sister, and 12 fighters who've become family. The cave network feels emptier, but also more manageable. Smaller groups move faster, hide easier, decide quicker. 2 months later, you hear what happened to Soothes. He fought Rome in a valley near Thracia. Fought well, by all accounts. But well isn't enough against legions. The Thracians broke after 3 hours. Soothes escaped, but his army didn't. 5,000 dead in 1 afternoon. Voron wasn't among the survivors who trickled back. You hope he died quickly. That's the best anyone can hope for. The Roman commander celebrates the victory by doubling patrols in your region. Marcellus is smart enough to know that defeating one army doesn't pacify a whole population. You make his celebration week memorable by hitting 3 different supply caravans, stealing everything from grain to replacement javelins. It's petty revenge, but revenge doesn't have to be grand to satisfy. You keep Voron's whetstone. Someone should remember he existed. Summer brings disease. A fever spreads through the cave network, probably from contaminated water or just too many people in close quarters for too long. Your niece gets it first, her forehead burning, skin pale, vomiting everything she tries to eat. Your sister is frantic. You don't know medicine. Nobody knows medicine. There's a healer in a village 2 valleys over, but Romans control that area now. You go anyway. The journey takes 2 days of careful movement, avoiding patrols, sleeping in hollow trees. The village is different now. Roman flags fly from the temple. Soldiers drink in what used to be your uncle's tavern. You enter at night, hooded, moving through alleys you played in as a child. Everything familiar has been repainted with occupation. The healer is an old woman named Cassia. She remembers you, used to treat your scraped knees when you were 8. She doesn't ask questions when you describe the symptoms, just packs herbs and makes you memorize the preparation method. Steep in hot water, let cool, 1 cup every 6 hours. She refuses payment. Romans pay me to treat their soldiers, she says quietly. This balances the scales. You make it back in a day and a half, pushing yourself harder than safe. Your niece drinks the bitter tea and makes faces like you're poisoning her. 3 days later, the fever breaks. She'll live. 6 others in the cave weren't as lucky. You bury them in a place with flowers, which seems important somehow. Death is becoming routine. That's the most horrifying part. Not that people die, but that you're getting used to it. You remember each name for a week, maybe 2, then they blur into the long list of casualties that war creates. You're not sure if that makes you a monster or just human. Probably both. War doesn't care about the difference. Autumn arrives with early snow. The mountains are beautiful and deadly, The kind of deadly that kills with cold instead of swords. You've lost 2 people to exposure already, hunters who didn't make it back before a storm hit. You find them 3 days later, frozen in positions that suggest they knew what was coming and just sat down to wait for it. Roman activity decreases as temperature drops. They're learning that winter here isn't worth the casualties. Good. Let them learn. Let them huddle in their garrison and burn through supplies, while you move freely through terrain that only kills those who don't respect it. Your sister gives birth during the first major snowfall. A boy, healthy, screaming his displeasure at the cold world he's entered. Dasa helps with the delivery. Apparently she's delivered 6 babies for her extended family. Skills you never knew about become essential in strange ways. The baby complicates everything. Babies are loud, require constant attention, need warmth and clean water and safety that caves can't really provide. Your sister names him Voron, after the blacksmith's apprentice who died months ago. It's a good name, a brave name. You hope the child lives long enough to earn it. Raising children in rebellion is its own form of warfare. You're fighting for a future you'll probably never see, raising kids who might only know struggle. But the alternative is raising them in chains, teaching them to bow, to scrape, to accept that some people are born to rule and others to serve. You teach your niece to count using stolen Roman coins. She doesn't know what they represent: empire, conquest, slavery. To her, they're just shiny circles for making piles. Someday, you'll tell her what they cost. Someday, she'll understand why you hid in caves instead of accepting peace. Someday isn't today. Today, she's 4, and she's learning numbers, and that's enough. You're not the only resistance group. Over winter, you make contact with 3 other cells operating in adjacent territories. Meetings happen in neutral locations. A burned-out shrine to old gods, a lightning-split oak. Places Romans avoid because superstition still governs half their decisions. The other leaders are like you, survivors more than warriors, farmers more than soldiers, people who chose this because the alternative was unacceptable. You share information, patrol routes, Roman weak points, supply schedules. One group specializes in destroying infrastructure. Another focuses on rescuing people marked for slavery. Your group does hit-and-run harassment. Together, you're becoming a network. Not an army. Networks are harder to destroy than armies. Cut off one part, the others continue. A runner brings news that changes everything. Gaius Marcellus is being recalled to Rome. Command is transferring to someone new, someone with a reputation. Marcus Cornelius Lentulus, known for pacifying rebellious provinces through systematic brutality. Where Marcellus used measured force, Lentulus uses terror. Where Marcellus built forts, Lentulus builds mass graves. The other cells want to unite, hit Lentulus before he establishes himself. Dasa thinks it's a trap, obvious bait designed to make scattered groups expose themselves. You're torn. Coordinated action could deal real damage. Or it could get everyone killed in one afternoon, like Southes. The meeting breaks up without consensus. Democracy in action. Nobody agrees. Everyone goes their own way. Somehow, the whole thing continues functioning. It's chaos. It works. You return to find your niece sick again. Not fever this time, just a persistent cough that rattles her small chest. The cave is too damp. Children need dry, warm places. They need homes. You're providing caves and stolen blankets and hope, which isn't enough. It's never enough. Your sister doesn't complain. She just holds her daughter and sings lullabies from before the war. when singing was about joy instead of distraction from coughing. You wake before dawn in a shallow cave, your breath visible in the frigid air. The entrance is concealed behind wild blackberry brambles that scratch your face every time you enter or leave. But that's the point. Invisibility means survival. Your army consists of 7 others: farmers, a blacksmith's apprentice, 2 brothers who herded goats, and a woman named Dasa who can track a mouse across bare rock. No generals, no formations, just people who refuse to be erased. The Thracian tribes scattered across these mountains have been doing this for centuries, appearing from nowhere to bleed larger forces dry, then vanishing like morning mist. But you're Illyrian, from a village that sat on the border between worlds, and you learn the same lessons from the same unforgiving landscape. Mountains teach patience, valleys teach speed, rivers teach cunning. You chew on dried venison so hard it hurts your jaw, washing it down with snowmelt collected in a leather flask. Food isn't plentiful. In 3 days, you've eaten once. Your stomach protests, but your mind stays sharp. Empty bellies make quiet feet. One of the brothers, Danko, is sharpening a hunting knife against a whetstone, the sound unnaturally loud in the pre-dawn stillness. Dasa checks her bow, counting arrows. 7 left. You have 10. 17 arrows between 9 people against an empire. The blacksmith's apprentice, Voran, sketches in the dirt with a stick, mapping the narrow pass 2 valleys east where supply wagons struggle up the switchbacks. Romans are predictable. They build roads, they follow roads, they die on roads. You've been watching them for 2 days, from ridgelines they never thought to guard. Why would they? They're Romans. They conquered Gaul, crushed Carthage, tamed the Mediterranean. What could mountain villagers possibly do? You move through the forest like water through cracks in stone, following the path of least resistance, making no sound. The others spread out in a loose line, maintaining visual contact through hand signals your grandfather taught you for hunting. Romans march in columns. They talk, laugh, complain about sore feet and officers. You hear them before you see them, the rhythmic clank of metal, the rumble of wagon wheels over rocks, someone singing badly. The supply train winds through the narrow pass right on schedule. 6 wagons pulled by oxen, 20 soldiers as escort, 10 ahead, 10 behind. They're bored. This route has been safe for months. The local tribes either fled deeper into the mountains or accepted Roman protection. Nobody's stupid enough to attack a military convoy. You are apparently stupid enough. Dasa moves first, because Dasa always moves first. An arrow takes the lead soldier in the throat. Silent, efficient, perfect. He crumples without a sound, and for 3 heartbeats, nobody notices because they're not expecting to notice. By the time the soldier beside him shouts alarm, 4 more arrows have flown. Chaos erupts below you. This is when Romans do what Romans do. They form up, shields locking, training overcoming surprise. It's beautiful, really. Disciplined, professional. Completely useless on a 40-degree slope covered in loose shale. You roll the rocks you spent 2 hours positioning yesterday. The avalanche isn't massive, but it doesn't need to be. Footing disappears. The neat formation breaks. Men stumble. Shields drop. And that's when Voran and the brothers attack from the opposite side. You don't join the melee yet. You're the watcher. The backup plan. The one who makes sure nobody runs for help. A soldier breaks free, sprinting downhill. You intercept him at the tree line. Your spear finds his back. He falls forward, momentum carrying him another 3 steps before he collapses. It's over in minutes. They don't kill you immediately, which is worse than death. Romans understand that living prisoners provide more value than dead rebels. Information, examples, leverage. You're disarmed, bound, beaten systematically, but not excessively. professional violence. They want you conscious and capable of talking. Lentulus arrives personally. He's younger than you expected, maybe 30, with calculating eyes and the kind of calm that comes from absolute confidence. He doesn't gloat, doesn't threaten, just looks at you like you're a problem to be solved. You're the one they call mountain ghost, he says in acceptable Greek. You don't respond. 23 documented attacks, 47 soldiers killed, countless disruptions to logistics. You've been expensive. He nods to himself as if confirming calculations. The question is whether you're more valuable for what you know or what your death demonstrates. You stay silent. Talking gives them nothing. Silence gives them nothing. Nothing is all you have. I'm not going to torture you, Lentulus continues. Torture produces unreliable intelligence. Instead, I'm going to make you an offer. Tell me where your people hide, and I'll grant them amnesty. Full pardons. They can return to their villages, resume normal lives. You'll be executed, obviously, but quickly. One sword stroke, no crucifixion, no spectacle. It's a good offer, too good. It's also meaningless. Roman amnesty lasts until the next rebellion, the next tax protest, the next time someone looks at a soldier wrong. You've seen how amnesty works. It's just delayed execution with paperwork. Or, he says, you can watch while I crucify the next 50 civilians I can find. Your choice determines whether they die because you attacked me or because you refused a reasonable offer. There's the trap. Not physical this time, moral. Impossible. Refuse and civilians die. Accept and everyone dies eventually. There's no winning move, which is the point. Rome doesn't offer winning moves to rebels. The cell they throw you in is underground, carved from bedrock, barely large enough to lie down. Water seeps through cracks, pooling on the floor. It's cold. It's dark. It's designed to break spirits before bodies break. You lie in the water because there's nowhere else to lie, and you think about choices. You could tell them about the caves. Save 50 hypothetical civilians from hypothetical crucifixion. Condemn 63 actual people hiding in Stone Mother and connected chambers. Your sister, your niece, your nephew who's barely old enough to smile. Dasa, who's kept more people alive than anyone. All of them dead because you tried to kill one Roman. The mathematics of war are brutal. You can't save everyone. Sometimes you can't save anyone. Sometimes the best you can do is decide which losses you can live with and which ones you can't. Except you might not live with any of them. This cell might be where you die, and someone else will have to make choices. Time becomes meaningless underground. They feed you once, bread and water, enough to keep you alive for questioning, not enough to maintain strength. You eat it anyway. Survival is habit now. You sleep in intervals, waking whenever footsteps approach. But they're just changing guards or checking that you haven't somehow escaped from a sealed stone box. Your mind wanders. You think about your grandfather teaching you to track deer through snow. Your sister's wedding before the war, when there was music and laughter and enough food that waste was possible. Your first kiss. A girl from the next village whose name you can't remember now. All the moments that made a life, being reviewed like scrolls before filing away forever. A sound pulls you back. The cell door opening, torchlight burning your dark, adjusted eyes. More questioning, or execution. You're almost curious which. It's not Lentulus who comes. It's Cassia, the healer from your village. She's carrying a basket of medical supplies and wearing an expression of determined neutrality. The guards let her pass without question. Apparently, she's been granted access to treat prisoners. Roman efficiency at work. Keep the rebels alive enough to interrogate properly. She cleans your wounds without speaking, applying salves that sting but work. Professional, detached. Only when the guards move farther down the corridor does she. Your people know you're here. They're planning something stupid. Your stomach drops. Tell them no. Tell them it's a trap. I told them. Dasa told them. Your sister told them. She wraps bandages around your ribs. 17 people are coming anyway. Volunteers. They're going to attack the garrison at dawn, 3 days from now. They think surprise and fury will compensate for being outnumbered 10-1. She's right. It's stupid. It's also exactly what you'd do if positions were reversed. Loyalty makes people stupid. Love makes people stupid. The combination is lethal. Can you get a message to them? You ask. Can you write it? She produces a tiny scrap of parchment, smaller than your palm, and a piece of charcoal. You have maybe 2 minutes before guards return. What do you say? Don't come? Come anyway? I'm sorry? I love you? You write 5 words. Lead them north. Forget me. Cassia reads it, nods, tucks it into her clothing. They won't listen, she says, but I'll try. She finishes the bandaging in silence, packs her supplies, and leaves without looking back. The guards return. The cell door closes. You're alone again with your choices and their consequences. 3 days. They're giving themselves 3 days to plan an assault that has no chance of success. You need to escape before then. The idea is absurd. You're in a stone cell with no tools, no allies, no strength. You need to escape anyway. You examine every inch of the cell. Stone walls, stone floor, stone ceiling. The Romans built well, but stone has properties. Limestone specifically, which this appears to be. Limestone is porous. Limestone erodes with water and time. You have water, it's pooling constantly. You have time, barely, but some. The seepage crack in the corner is your best chance. It's barely visible, a hairline fracture where water enters. You begin working at it with the only tool available. The small bone from your dinner, the chicken leg they gave you yesterday. It's pathetic. It's also all you have. Scraping limestone with bone makes almost no progress. After an hour, you've widened the crack by perhaps a hair's breadth. You have 3 days. This will never work through the wall, but maybe through the mortar between stones. Mortar is softer, mortar gives. You work in darkness mostly to avoid guard attention. Scrape, scrape, scrape. Your fingers bleed. The bone wears down. You're carving a channel in the mortar joint, grain by grain, working by feel because you can't see properly. It's meditation. It's desperation. It's hope measured in dust. By day 2, you've created a groove deep enough to fit your finger into. It's something. Not enough, but something. Your hands are raw, fingers cramping, but you keep working. The alternative is watching 17 people die trying to save someone who isn't worth saving. The guards notice you're quieter than before. One comments that you're probably losing your mind. Close enough to the truth. People alone in darkness with no hope often do lose their minds. You're losing yours in a productive direction at least. A stone shifts. Just slightly, just a fraction, but it moves when you push. Your heart rate spikes. You work faster, quieter, praying to gods you don't believe in that the stone keeps moving, keeps giving, keeps offering escape. The stone comes loose on the evening of day 3. It's not large, maybe the size of your fist. but it creates a gap into the adjacent space. You don't know what's there. Could be another cell, could be solid earth, could be freedom. You work through the night, widening the hole, removing a second stone, then a third. The gap is barely large enough to squeeze through, and you have no idea where it leads. But dawn is coming, and with it, 17 people you can't let die for you. The space beyond is another tunnel, older than the cell, maybe part of the original building before Romans renovated it. It's tight, dusty, dark. You crawl forward on your belly, pulling yourself with elbows because there's no room to use your legs properly. The tunnel extends maybe 30 feet before branching. You choose left arbitrarily. The crawl seems endless. Your shoulders scrape walls. Your breathing echoes. You're certain you'll get stuck, die underground like a worm. But the tunnel slopes upward, and that has to mean something. Up is out. Up is air. Up is possibility. You emerge in a storage cellar, breaking through what turns out to be false brickwork, probably an old smuggler's route from before Roman occupation. The cellar contains amphorae of wine and oil, sacks of grain, crates of supplies. You steal a cloak, bread, a knife. Theft while escaping imprisonment feels redundant, but you'll take what you can get. The cellar stairs lead to the garrison's kitchen area. Pre-dawn, cooks are beginning breakfast preparations. You wait until they're distracted, then slip out a service door into the compound yard. Guards on the walls, but they're watching outward, not inward. Why would they? The enemy is outside the fort, not already inside it. You're across the yard and over the palisade before anyone notices. The forest swallows you. You're free. Now you need to stop a rescue that's already in motion. You move through the forest like you used to before capture, reading the land, using terrain, becoming part of the landscape rather than something moving across it. Your feet are torn and bleeding from running barefoot on rocks and roots, but pain is ignorable when the alternative is 17 deaths. The sun rises. You keep moving. Your body protests. Days of imprisonment, minimal food, injuries poorly healed. You push through it. You've done harder things. You've survived worse. That's what you tell yourself, even though you're not entirely sure it's true. By midday, you reach the first rally point, where resistance members gather before operations. It's empty. They've already moved toward the garrison. You're too late. Or maybe you're not. They'd approach carefully, scout first, wait for the right moment. There's still time. You find their trail easily. 17 people trying to move quietly still leave signs if you know what to look for. Disturbed moss, broken twigs, the particular way certain ferns spring back after being brushed. You follow it north, then east, recognizing the approach pattern. They're going to hit the eastern gate, where the garrison is weakest. It's what you do. You catch them 2 hours before sunset, spread out in formation, preparing for nightfall assault. Dassa sees you first. Her expression cycles through shock, relief, fury, and settles on exasperation. "You were supposed to stay captured and let us rescue you," she says. "I rescued myself. Now we're leaving. We came for you." "I know. I appreciate it. It's also insane. Lentulus knows you're coming. This whole thing is bait to expose resistance strength. Your sister pushes through the others, your niece on her hip. Seeing them here, preparing to attack a garrison, makes everything clear. They weren't coming to rescue you. They were coming because losing you was unacceptable. And if they died trying to change that, at least they died choosing their fate." Convincing them to leave takes longer than you'd like. Warriors prepare psychologically for battle. Backing down feels like cowardice, even when it's smart. But you describe the cell, the interrogation, Lentulus's tactical mind. You make them understand this isn't about courage. It's about not giving Rome exactly what it wants. They agree eventually. democracy and persuasion, slow and frustrating, but effective. The group dissolves back into the forest, taking different routes as always. You're the last to leave, making sure everyone's gone, erasing signs of the gathering, old habits. Dasa walks with you, which means she has questions. She always has questions. How'd you get out? Scratch through mortar with a chicken bone for 3 days. She's quiet for a long time. Then, you're an idiot. I know. Good, as long as you know. You walk in comfortable silence, letting the forest speak. Wind through pine needles, creek water over stones, a woodpecker working on dead oak. Normal sounds, peaceful sounds. Sounds that have nothing to do with war. We can't keep doing this, Dasa says eventually. Running, hiding, ambushing. It's not sustainable. Lentulus is systematically closing escape routes. Give him another year and there won't be anywhere left to hide. She's right. You've been avoiding this conclusion, but it's obvious. Rome doesn't give up. Rome adjusts, adapts, overwhelms. You can hurt them, cost them resources, make occupation expensive, but you can't win. Not long term, not against an empire. So what do we do, you ask? We leave, completely. Go somewhere Rome hasn't reached yet. Start over where there's no garrison, no patrols, no bounties on our heads. It's abandonment. It's also survival. The land will still be here after Rome falls. Empires always fall eventually. But you need to be alive to see it. Your niece needs to be alive to see it. Where, you ask? North, beyond the Danube. Free Germania. Rome's afraid of those forests. The idea spreads through the resistance network like fire through dry grass. Leave. Abandon the mountains that birthed you, raised you, tested you. Abandon the graves of parents and grandparents. Abandon villages that have stood for centuries. Just leave, because staying means dying slowly while Rome tightens its grip. Not everyone agrees, the older fighters especially. They've invested too much to walk away. They'll stay, keep fighting, probably die within the year. You respect it. You don't join it. Over 2 months, you organize the exodus. 63 people becomes 47, becomes 31. Some choose to stay. Others decide to try Roman amnesty. Naive, but understandable. A few just vanish into the landscape to survive however they can. The 31 who remain are committed. Fighters, families, believers that life elsewhere is better than death here. Your sister is among them. Your niece, who's 5 now and asks too many questions about why you're leaving the mountains. Your nephew, barely walking, oblivious to everything except his mother's presence. Dasa and 12 fighters who've become family through shared struggle. A few civilians who attach themselves to the group because anywhere seems safer than here. You stockpile supplies, stolen Roman grain, smoked meat from hunting, dried fruit, blankets, weapons. Everything necessary for a winter journey through hostile territory. The Danube is 400 miles north. Between here and there, more Roman garrisons, hostile tribes who might view refugees as invaders, mountains that make these look gentle, weather that kills the unprepared. It's a terrible plan. It's also the only plan. Lentulus is still hunting you. Patrols increase, searches intensify, bounties rise. 70 denarii now, enough to buy a farm. You're worth a farm, apparently. Your sister jokes that you should turn yourself in and split the reward with her. You don't laugh. The joke's too close to possibilities you've considered during dark moments. The departure date is set. First new moon of winter. Dark nights for dark work. You have 3 weeks to prepare. The night before departure, you return to your village one last time. It's dangerous and probably stupid, but you need to see it. Need to say goodbye to the place that made you before war remade you. The village is different now. Roman architecture grafted onto traditional buildings like a parasite. A fountain where the well used to be, stone roads replacing dirt paths, Latin inscriptions on a temple that once honored gods your ancestors brought from across the Adriatic. Progress, they call it. Erasure, you call it. Your family's house is occupied by a Roman clerk. You can see him through the window, bent over tax records, completely unaware that the property's original owner is standing outside contemplating murder. You don't murder him. What would be the point? Killing one clerk just means Rome sends another. You visit your mother's grave instead. It's overgrown, forgotten, but you clear the weeds and lay a stone on the marker. You talk to her, which feels foolish but necessary. Tell her you're leaving. Tell her you tried. Tell her you're sorry you couldn't save the home she built. She doesn't answer. Dead people never do. But you feel lighter for having said it. Your childhood friend finds you there, Cassian, who became a cooper and stayed when you fled. He's aged poorly, bent under Roman taxation and Roman law and Roman order. He doesn't recognize you at first, then does, and his face cycles through terror and pity. "They're still looking for you," he whispers. 70 denarii. I know. I won't tell. I know that too. You talk for an hour, catching up on 5 years compressed into conversation. His wife died in childbirth. His children work for Roman contractors. He's considering selling his business and becoming a citizen if they'll have him. It's survival. You don't judge. Everyone survives differently. The Danube appears in late winter, a massive river half frozen, dividing Roman territory from the unknown. You stand on the south bank and stare across at forests that have never seen legions, at a world where your name doesn't carry a bounty. Crossing is its own challenge. The ice is thick in places, too thin in others. You test it carefully, sending lightest people first, children, then women, then fighters carrying supplies. The ice cracks and groans but holds. Your niece thinks it's a game, skating across frozen sections while your sister's heart nearly stops watching. Everyone makes it. 27 people standing on the north bank, looking back at the empire that defined them through opposition. Darsa says something poetic about leaving the past behind. You're too cold and tired for poetry. You're just relieved nobody drowned. The first Germanic tribe you encounter is more curious than hostile. They speak a language you don't understand, but trade requires minimal linguistics. You offer Roman weapons, they offer food and directions. Their chief, a man with scars that map a violent life, seems amused by your group. Refugees from Rome are common enough. Refugees who are fighters are less common. He allows you to stay the winter in an abandoned settlement nearby. The settlement is rough, collapsed roofs, rotted floors, evidence of some past conflict. But it's shelter. It's not a cave. It's a place to rebuild, at least temporarily. You spend months there, learning the language, learning the land, learning how to survive in a place where Rome is just a distant rumor. Your niece learns Germanic faster than you do. Children's brains are flexible like that. She makes friends with tribal children, comes back teaching you words you can't pronounce. Your sister's second child is born there, in spring, under a roof that doesn't leak. A girl. She names her Darsa, after the woman who kept everyone alive long enough to find freedom. The Danube appears in late winter, a massive river half frozen, dividing Roman territory from the unknown. You stand on the south bank and stare across at forests that have never seen legions, at a world where your name doesn't carry a bounty. Crossing is its own challenge. The ice is thick in places, too thin in others. You test it carefully, sending lightest people first, children, then women, then fighters carrying supplies. The ice cracks and groans, but holds. Your niece thinks it's a game, skating across frozen sections while your sister's heart nearly stops watching. Everyone makes it. 27 people standing on the north bank, looking back at the empire that defined them through opposition. Darsa says something poetic about leaving the past behind. You're too cold and tired for poetry. You're just relieved nobody drowned. The first Germanic tribe you encounter is more curious than hostile. They speak a language you don't understand, but trade requires minimal linguistics. You offer Roman weapons, they offer food and directions. Their chief, a man with scars that map a violent life, seems amused by your group. Refugees from Rome are common enough. Refugees who are fighters are less common. He allows you to stay the winter in an abandoned settlement nearby. The settlement is rough, collapsed roofs, rotted floors, evidence of some past conflict. But it's shelter. It's not a cave. It's a place to rebuild, at least temporarily. You spend months there, learning the language, learning the land, learning how to survive in a place where Rome is just a distant rumor. Your niece learns Germanic faster than you do. Children's brains are flexible like that. She makes friends with tribal children, comes back teaching you words you can't pronounce. Your sister's second child is born there, in spring, under a roof that doesn't leak. A girl. She names her Darsa, after the woman who kept everyone alive long enough to find freedom. You don't stop fighting. Can't really. It's what you know, what you're good at. But the fighting is different here. The Germanic tribes war among themselves constantly, not like Rome's systematic conquest, more like weather patterns, fierce and then over. They appreciate experienced fighters. You and Darsa and the others become valuable as trainers, teaching guerrilla tactics to warriors who prefer direct charges. It's strange, being valued for skills Rome called terrorism. Perspective, you suppose. Your niece turns 7. She barely remembers the mountains now. They're stories you tell, not places she lived. She speaks Germanic fluently, Illyrian when you insist, Greek poorly, Latin not at all. You're raising a child who will never know Rome's shadow. It feels like victory. But victories have costs. You dream about the people you left, the fighters who stayed, the civilians who tried amnesty, the villages that burned. You dream about Voram, about soldiers dying in snow, about your mother's grave slowly disappearing under weeds because no one's left to tend it. Survivor's guilt is heavy, even when survival was the right choice. Darsa notices you're quieter than before. She's always been good at noticing. You miss it, she says, not a question. I miss who I was before it, before all of it. That person's gone. War killed him. I know. So mourn him and move on. You've got a niece to raise, a nephew who thinks you're a hero, and a perfectly good life that doesn't involve caves and Romans. Try enjoying it. She's right. She's usually right, which is annoying. You try. You teach your niece to track deer. You help your sister repair her roof. You learn to make bread from Germanic grain, which tastes wrong but fills your stomach. You laugh at tribal feasts where everyone drinks too much and tells exaggerated war stories. You live. Living feels like betraying the dead until it doesn't.
10 years pass. You're 33 and feel 50. Your niece is 15, betrothed to a blacksmith's son from a neighbouring clan. Your nephew is 10, learning to hunt with a compound bow he built himself. Your sister's daughter, Dasa the younger is 9, fearless and loud and everything her namesake was. The settlement has grown. More refugees arrived over the years, people fleeing Rome, fleeing debt, fleeing memories. The abandoned village is now a thriving community. You're an elder, which feels absurd. You're not wise, you're just tired. News from the south filters through traders. Rome is expanding again, pushing across the Danube in certain sectors. Emperor Marcus Aurelius, they say, is different from previous emperors. Philosophical, thoughtful, also committed to conquest. Thoughtful conquest is still conquest. The tribe debates what to do. Some want to fight, establish resistance before Rome reaches this far. Others want to flee deeper into Germania. You stay silent during these debates. You've said your piece about fighting Rome. It cost too much last time. But when they ask you directly, you, the man who fought Romans for 5 years in the mountains, you tell them the truth. Rome always wins eventually. Not every battle, but the war. They don't stop. They don't quit. They adapt and return with more soldiers. If you fight, fight smart. Fight like we did. Make it cost more than it's worth. But understand you're not winning. You're just setting terms for eventual surrender. It's not what they want to hear. Truth rarely is. Dasa, the elder one, is 47 now, grey-haired, grandmother to 3. She still keeps weapons sharp, still watches the southern horizon. If they come, she says one evening, I'm too old to run again. Then we make a stand, you say. We? I'm tired of running too. It's a lie. You'd run again if you had to. But sometimes loyalty matters more than survival. Rome doesn't come. Not that year. Not the next. Marcus Aurelius dies, his son Commodus takes power, and Roman priorities shift inward. The empire turns on itself, as empires do. The crisis buys another generation of freedom, maybe more. You teach your great-nephew, your niece's firstborn son, to track in the forest. He's 5, endlessly curious, asking why trees grow that way and how you know where deer sleep. You answer patiently, the way your grandfather answered you. Knowledge transfers like water downhill, finding new vessels. Your sister is 52, still sharp-tongued and capable. Her oldest daughter runs the settlement's trade negotiations with neighboring clans. Her son is a respected hunter. Her youngest is learning herbalism from a German wise woman. They've all built lives that have nothing to do with Rome, nothing to do with resistance, nothing to do with caves and hunger and fear. It's what you fought for. Watching it happen feels surreal. Dasa dies in her sleep at 53. Peaceful, unexpected. You bury her on a hill overlooking the settlement, where she can watch over the people she kept alive. Your niece sings at the funeral, a Germanic mourning song you don't understand but feel anyway. The tribe honors Dasa as a founder, which she was. You tell stories about her at the feast, how she could track a mouse across rock, how she argued with everyone constantly, how she never quit, even when quitting made sense. People should be remembered for who they were, not what they achieved. Dasa was stubborn and brilliant and brave and real. That's enough. You're 40 now. Your beard is more grey than black. Your joints ache in cold weather. You've outlived most expectations. You're a grandfather. Your niece's children call you that anyway, and it feels true enough. The mountains are far away now. Sometimes you dream about them. Sometimes you don't. You die at 64, which is old for someone who lived like you lived. It's winter. You're teaching your great-great-nephew to carve wooden birds. Something about the tradition feels important, when your heart just stops. No pain, no drama,
just a pause that becomes permanent. They burn you on a pyre, Germanic custom, mixed with Illyrian prayers your sister's daughter learned from you decades ago. Your niece, 70 now, impossibly, speaks about a man who crossed the Danube, carrying children and hope, who taught 3 generations to survive, who never stopped watching the southern horizon. Your great-great-nephew keeps the wooden bird you were carving. It's unfinished, rough, imperfect. He'll finish it himself one day, when he understands what it means to continue something others started. The settlement thrives. Your descendants are dozens now. Children and grandchildren and great-grandchildren who've never seen Roman soldiers, who've never hidden in caves, who've never had to choose between survival and submission. They speak Germanic primarily, Illyrian secondarily, can't speak Latin at all. They're blacksmiths and hunters and traders and healers. They're free. The Roman Empire stands for another few centuries before it falls, the way all empires fall, slowly, then suddenly, then completely. The mountains you fought in become someone else's mountains. The caves shelter different refugees. History moves on, unconcerned with individual stories. But on a hill in Germania, your great-great-grandchildren tend a grave marker, carved with words in 3 languages, Illyrian, Germanic, and Greek. The inscription is simple. He ran so we could walk. He fought so we could live. He survived. It's not entirely accurate. You did plenty of things that weren't about others, made selfish choices, failed more than you succeeded. But the people who loved you remember you kindly, which is more than most get, more than you expected. Enough. So, dim the lights now. Let the weight of the mountains fade. You're not running anymore. You're not fighting. You're not carrying choices that break backs and hearts. Tonight, you're here, in comfort, in safety, in a bed that Romans never burned and cold that central heating defeats. Those struggles, guerrilla warfare, winter caves, impossible choices, they're history now, ancient history. The Balkans remember, somewhere in stone and soil, but you don't have to. Your ancestors survived impossible things, so you could do possible things. Sleep well. Dream of wooden birds and frozen rivers crossed. Tomorrow waits, gentle and kind. Rest now.